So we're going to move straight into the questions, and actually we'll go to Udo Klein's question from earlier on. I'm just going to get you up on the screen, Andre. So referring back to the bill of lading and the fact that the cargo couldn't be transferred ownership because the documents couldn't be processed. Andre, how come after more than 2 years, various technology related to trade finance solutions are still not able to handle digital documents and document flow, especially when many of the world's largest trade finance banks are part of the consortia and networks that we see?
Yeah, it's a key question indeed for those types of documents. The bill of exchange, for instance, we have technology platforms that enable to digitize bills of lading or other types of instruments. And those platforms are being used by some corporates, by banks, but the adoption is definitely still low compared to the need in the market. So I think the approach that banks have taken is a very much a commercial approach. Where is the business case? Where is the client demand? And basically, that's a bit of the story of my life over the last 20 years on payments and trade, is to promote digital options. But the appetite from banks is quite limited to responding to clear client requests and looking at it from a financial business case. And here we have a new use case, a new reason to invest in those technologies from a business continuity planning perspective. So it's a new dimension, a new priority that this COVID-19 situation is introducing, a new reason to invest in those technologies. And I think it's the same for the work from home policy, which was resisted by many employers. And those employers are very happy now that this is technology possible to continue getting your employees work from home, whereas in the past you would try to resist it. So that's one thing, is openness because of a new situation will increase. Hopefully that will trigger more adoption, but I don't think it will be that natural. We need also policymakers to jump into this and to enforce, to also realize they have a key role to play in terms of adapting some of the laws, some of the legal practices, because there are stumbling blocks, there are obstacles on that side, and the action here is in the hands of the policymakers. So it's not just about the commercial appetite on the bank side, but definitely also the openness of the political world, the policymakers to central banks. We saw a question on Algeria, for instance, that have authorized to work with scanned documents. That was one of the questions I saw earlier during the webinar. This is a good attitude of the policymaker to relax some rules, to adapt some rules in order to make digitization achievable.
Thank you very much, Andre, and also, an extended thank you once again to ITFA and ITFA's committee for making this webinar possible. Andre, I'm afraid we're out of time for questions, and we're going to quickly go on to the poll, but just for our attendees who are listening in, we've also uploaded the ITFA Fintech deck, which talks through some of the initiatives that are going on at the moment in terms of digital instruments, documentation, etc. I know someone anonymously asked what the current initiatives are to formalize some of these areas of digitizing trade finance. So now onto the poll, which I'm going to open up.
Yep.
So the question is, what solutions, if any, are you looking for to improve your efficiency? E-signatures, digital documents and contracts, workflow automation, virtual meetings and calls, secondary trade finance and distribution automation, and insurance digitization. Okay. So there you go. Digital documents and contracts. Andre, do you have any comments on the solutions here? It looks like there's a whole variety, and everyone's looking at a whole variety of digital solutions here.
So I think the technology again is available, and it's being used. The technology related to digital documents, digital signatures is available. It's a matter of expanding that to our trade instruments, trade documents, such as the bill of lading or such as the bill of exchange, the promissory note. On the ITFA side, we do have a specific focus on the use of digital documents and digital signatures backed by a DLT infrastructure for traceability that is specifically targeting the digital negotiable instruments. And we're working with Enigotime as the backend document technology provider for this. And we're going to release in April our legal white paper developed in partnership with Sullivan on this particular issue. Of course, it's only one step in the right direction, hopefully. There are more steps that we will be looking at, and those steps are often actions that are required on the policy side to change the laws, to adapt the laws to the new technologies that are being available. I'm referring here to the Bill of Exchange Act that should be amended to ease the rollout of technology in support of negotiable instruments.
Right. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Sean Edwards, who's going to give a few concluding remarks, and then we're going to go into a wider Q&A with our panelists.
Thank you, Deepesh, and thank you for everybody who's rung in either via Zoom or YouTube. I know it's a very worrying time for all of you. We're more worried about, I'm sure, our families than we are about our business. But one thing we do know is that this won't last forever. All of us will get over this physically. The questions, though, I think are much more longer lasting in relation to the impact of our business. Now, its purpose has always been to provide practical help. The area that is particularly under scrutiny is fintech. We are all looking to technology as a savior, and we've had to adopt very quickly, as Ash was saying, over the last few days, some very improvised positions around e-signatures. Andre has mentioned the work that prior to this pandemic ITFA was carrying out. That will now accelerate. So around distribution, where we think that we can use some of that technology to better focus state aid. It's just a little bit like quantitative easing for supply chains, because there is no doubt that when money at this scale is pumped out into the whole economy, there are moral hazard issues, there are issues of efficiency. We think that some of our fintechs can make that better. On the much more day-to-day and much more prosaic issues around digital documents and signing, Andre has mentioned the digital negotiable instruments initiative. We are also working on a paper around e-signatures to provide practical help. Must stress that you will need to look at this both in relation to the jurisdiction that you're in and to the jurisdiction of your counterparty, but we hope that will be some help. We have a lot of questions, so let's go back to them and try and answer them with the great panelists that we have. Deepesh?
Thank you very much, Sean. Sorry, cut you off a little bit there. Okay, so I'm going to ask, I'm going to go to Andre and a question from Christian Goet. What is the most advanced fintech in AI document analysis? So Andre, over to you.
So basically, on the as part of the 23 fintechs we have two that are providing financial institutions with trade document checking solutions based on machine learning that enable to digitize paper documents, but most importantly, they enable to perform the checking of documents, a kind of automated pre-analysis that is assisting the doc checkers with machine-based results. And of course, the doc checker remains in control of accepting those discrepancies being proposed or not, or identifying additional discrepancies. Those technologies are based on machine learning. That means the machine continuously learns on how to interpret the data that is basically captured in those trade documents. The two ones we have is TradeStream and very easy. So TradeStream has been quite active through ITFA, working with us through various events. And as you may have seen recently, they signed up various Nordic players as part of a major pilot, which is now moving into production. So quite good testimonials, which is what we are after at this stage within the FinTech committee, demonstrating how banks are and corporates and funders, depending on the FinTechs we're talking about, are basically implementing those solutions. So you can reach out to those Uzer Bawani or Sam Segal on the TradeStream side, and additional contacts for other fintechs that you can find in the fintech guide we published last September, and which Deepesh through the TFG Hub will publish following this webinar. Again, I would want to highlight that whether it's for digital signatures, for automated distribution, we talked about allocating public funds to corporate SMEs, receivables, payables. All those technologies exist. Jaco was mentioning Bolero is getting more requests around the e-bills of lading. On the stock side, those technologies exist. We're not here to suggest we need to invent additional ones. It's all about increasing adoption, and I think now the banks have even more business, a stronger business case to go and start considering those. Same logic as for working from home, as I said earlier.